Coach Sean Nahas here, head of the Courage road trip to Kansas City. Coach, as you get ready for another road trip, your third straight away match, take us through kind of what this week has been like as you finally get back to doing some type of a normal training this week.
Yeah, let's just get back into a rhythm. Nothing any different. We don't treat it any different. Just look at the review videos from the previous games or from the Gotham game and see what areas we could be better at, and then how does that apply to this week. But it's just another week of training. That's all.
We have a few questions that were submitted electronically from Jackie Gutierrez, working women kicks balls and boards. Her first question was, with your experience as a coach in this league, what are some of the challenges that people might not know about your role, and how do you manage or problem solve through some of those challenges?
Things that are out of my control, like scheduling and travel, and unfortunately, our opinions aren't asked, and that's any coach. But I think you have to. The only way you can do is you just treat it as positive as you can, regardless of how difficult it is. Not having our field for over a month. That's not ideal. Again, things out of our control. So all you can do is manage the situations you're in terms of what you can control and make the most of it. But unfortunately, those things that are out of your control are really important. And that's the biggest hiccup with the league for me.
And the second question was, what's been the biggest lesson you've learned so far this season that has impacted your coaching staff?
Nothing. I think if anything, I would probably learn more last year, just because I went through a full year, and I think this year it's just still leaning on last year and how I did things, and not getting frustrated from the year before that. Sometimes you have a tendency to revert back to bad habits or things along those lines, which is a normal, natural human thing. And and also not get frustrated with results. I know everyone. Again, I want to win. Everyone wants to win. That's just not life. You don't win in life every single time, and otherwise we'd all be millionaires and we wouldn't have to work a day in our lives. And I think that's the part. It's a process. I have to stay true to that. You still have to be there and do what's right. And regardless of wins, losses, or draws, as long as the effort is right, then I'll be fine. If the effort's not good, then I'll always be a little bit pissed off. So if the effort's right, we can improve the soccer side. If the effort's not right, you can't improve that. That's an internal thing. So I think that's the stuff that I would probably say that I sort of lean on a little bit.
We talked to Meredith Beck just before this. So what does she bring? Having her back on the road last week, having that veteran presence back, and she's been training to have her officially rostered and travel with the team. What does she bring as an extra element to have her with you on the road?
Yeah, I just think her experience with the club and knowing who we are and what we want to be, her experience in the locker room, her personality. But I think more importantly, it was just another step in her hurdle and journey to get back into playing. This is it's not going to be overnight where she's back on the field. This is just another phase of the return, and getting through the mental side of being on the bench, getting through the mental side of maybe not playing, getting through the mental side, even if she does play, is it 5 minutes here and there just to sort of get her feet back into it. So it's just picking and choosing those moments. And sometimes when you haven't played in so long, a 1-0 game in the heart of it is probably not the best game to throw a player into. So it's just reading the game, seeing what works, making sure we're not putting her in a situation where she can making sure we put her in a situation where she can be successful, rather than just because we know that there's going to be a lot of rust that has to be worn off. You can do everything you want in training, but nothing mimics the game.
On that note, obviously every player is different, but with Caroline also recovering from a torn ACL, is it helpful to have a couple players who are kind of coming back around, roughly the same time, and working on kind of that mental, physical side that you talked about with Meredith? Is that something that you can then kind of carry out with Caroline as well, or is it just every player is different, everybody's different?
Every individual is different. Their journey is different. Their mentality is different. I know a player when I was in the youth club who was back in 4 months. I've known players that haven't returned in 2 years. So our job is to follow the science and follow the doctors and their suggestions, and making sure that nothing is ever going to set you up for complete go ahead. But We want to make sure that all of the muscles are balanced out. We want to make sure that the strength is there. We also want to make sure confidence-wise they're there. They can all say, I want to do this, I want to do that. But until you actually do it, there's a fear, there's a hesitancy. So it's just monitoring those things. It's no different than, when Mary was first cleared, we said, hey, look, we're going to put you in for 5 minutes in training. The first session she was cleared, it was on turf. And I said, we're not training yet because I don't want your first session full on to be on turf. I want it to be on grass. So, that was a delay. So that's our job, is to make sure we're in the minds of the players and get their feedback. It's their life. It's their journey. And even if a doctor comes to me and says she's good to go, I have to make sure the player is good to go. Because obviously ACLs happen and injuries happen when you're 100%. So with these repairs now, they're almost a commonality, unfortunately, which I think is a whole nother conversation. But everyone's different because mentally everyone's different. And the way they play is different.
You talked before about kind of the staying course as far as your vision versus juggling results and sort of discounting or taking into account that balance. Seems like your team is high buy-in in what you're trying to do. When there's a bit of a rough patch, do you have to motivate them in a new way to sort of stay the course, or are they kind of along with you no matter what?
It's not my choice if they're along with me or not. If they're not along with me, though, then it's a whole different conversation. So, but again, you have to have the right people in the locker room, right? And if it's only again, last year we didn't start off on a great foot. I think we're ahead this year than we were last year. But we have key pieces in how we play are new. Key pieces in what we do are new, and it's going to take time. But I don't preach or demand that they have to get. I always tell them, if we lose, you have less than 24 hours. Get on with it. Get in the locker room, shower up. Let's move on. If I don't live that, I can be mad, but not mad at them. Mad that we didn't get a result. I downloaded all the goals we gave up this morning, and looked at them again, and they're crap. Crap goals. I'd probably say a lot of them were on us and our decision making. So that's correctable. One of them was 4 goals in a game for one sole solitary reason, and that's something these guys have to get over. They have to learn to defend that moment better. But that's all part of it. The video shows moments we have to learn. It's no different when you take a test in school. If you get a 75, that doesn't mean you're going to get a 75 the rest of the season. It just means you have to work a little bit harder, study a little bit more, and grow. And unfortunately, the ex-handlers and names and soccer reporters, they only write about the negative. They only write about the losses. They don't write about the growth, because that's the way the life is now. You see it in every sport. It's just the reality of it. So I think at the end of the day, we're not going to change that process because we've proven that journey worked last year. Does that mean that journey is going to replicate this year? It doesn't. It just doesn't. Their teams are different. Do we have to improve in certain areas? 1,000% yes. So does every team. And it comes down to hard work. It comes down to little things. It comes down to little details. That's why I'm such a stickler with that stuff. If you don't fill out your readiness report in the morning, I let people know, because that is a part of a mentality. So until that all that is turned, then I think we won't have everyone on the same track. But I don't think we're far off. Sometimes I think losing opens you up for success. And let's be honest, the road trip sucks. That's a pretty difficult road trip. Angel City, home for a game, haven't trained. Then you go play Orlando, who's the hottest team in the league. Then you go play Lynn. We go watch Lynn score against us again, against the champs, a good team who are starting to catch their stride because they're getting healthy. And now we're going on the road to play Kansas City. I don't know. That's a pretty tough stretch. And then we're about to hit the road for God knows how long because we have other sports playing in our stadium. Whole nother conversation. So I welcome it, though. It's the fun part. And we just keep plugging away, regardless of what people think.
Last one for me. There were renewed there's one or several teams in the WSL that are looking to bring in Denise O'Sullivan this summer. Do you have any comment on whether she could be moving or?
Talk to Sully. I'm staying out of it.
Victoria, anything on your end?
I'll say this. Nothing's come across my desk. I will also say this. News outlets over there don't help the cause. So it's not coming from our side. Let's put it that way. It's their side. And I actually just got a text from someone else overseas who said there's another story about them and they didn't really like. People need to stop. It puts these other clubs and it puts our players in bad spots. She's one of the best players in the world for a reason, but it's not coming from our side. All my discussions with Sully have been positive. And at the end of the day, these other news reports need to stop causing problems because it's not fair to the player. It's not fair to the clubs these players play for. It's my personal opinion.
Victoria, anything via Zoom?
Yeah, you're wrapping up this phase of your road trip in Kansas City. They got their new stadium, so it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. What are your thoughts on that? On having a stadium that's specific for that team, and how that helps to grow the game there, and how you would envision that helping to grow here as well.
Well, let me remind everyone that this stadium that we get to play in was originally built for the NC Courage, the Carolina Courage back in the day. Not many people talk about that. No, look, I think it's great. It's great for the women's game. It's what's needed. Their ownership has done a wonderful job in building that brand and, building the stadium in a short amount of time, the training facility. Like that's what every club wants. Unfortunately, all these markets don't have the accessibility to be able to do that. Right. So I still think our stadium's fantastic. I still think it could, we're hoping to upgrade it in certain areas, but the surface is all I care about. It's a wonderful surface. It's a great training facility. We're upgrading it in areas that the best we can. But I think anytime clubs do that, it automatically raises the standards of everybody else. And that's what it's about. It's happened in every league. So when you see all these state-of-the-art things, like you see the Las Vegas Aces with the WNBA, their training facility is state-of-the-art. Well, what are the other clubs going to do? Because that helps in their dynamic. It only helps the league. And anyone that says it doesn't is blind to that. You can't ignore it. It's great. We're excited to go do it. I'll play in an empty barn. I really don't care. But I think at the end of the day, it's great. It's great for the league. It's great for their club. It's great for their fan base. And it lifts the standard of the league to another level that I think is always important for us to continue to grow. And hopefully we can continue to do that on all aspects from coast to coast.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep, thank you.